Expectations. We all have them. We listen to the weather forecast and expect that if Paul the weatherman says there's a 100% chance of rain, it's going to rain. Amazon promises to deliver a parcel the next day. We expect that knock on the door. We get on a bus and expect that the driver knows where he's going. Doesn't always happen. Conversely, we often expect something to go wrong, as in making this video. The phone will ring at the crucial point in Coronation Street, or the baby will be sick down that new suit just as you've got ready for that appointment. The bus fails to show up. I could go on. Generally, though, we find that our expectations are met. No more, no less. So what happens when reality is replaced with the unexpected? When our lives are turned upside down? If I'd asked you 6 months ago your expectations of where you would be or what you would be doing on a Sunday morning, the majority of you would have said that you expected to be in church, singing hymns, worshipping God, counting the cobwebs, looking forward to coffee and chat with your friends afterwards. How things have changed. How our expectations have taken a different turn. In the Old Testament, we have many prophecies of the Messiah, someone coming as a powerful king. The expectation was a mighty warrior who would lead the tribes into battle against their enemy. What the people got was John the Baptist first, and then Jesus following him. Neither hardly fulfilment of expectations. John lived in the desert, and he lived a strange ascetic lifestyle. Then Jesus spent most of his time with sinners and tax collectors, actually shunning the company of the learned men of his day. The opening of our gospel reading likened the crowds to children, unable or unwilling to dance to the piper, unable or again unwilling to mourn to a dirge. People never react as expected. Generally, they're not satisfied with what's on offer. They want something else. I'm sure in your life experience, there's never been a better manager than the one who's just left. Despite the fact that you disliked every policy he tried to introduce until someone came along who lived his life by spreadsheets. There's never been a better doctor than the one who retired. Despite the fact that you belittled his out-of-date methods until he was replaced by someone straight from medical school with all his newfangled ideas. Dare I say, there has never been a better minister than the one that's just left. And I can say that easily now, as all of ours have been here a while. You didn't approve of their long hair, the way they dressed, or more importantly, the hymns they chose, until they were replaced by someone in Savile Row suits, with weekly haircuts, who chose jazz tunes and full drum accompaniment for their hymns. Now you know I'm not talking about Barnsley. People are never satisfied. People criticise John the Baptist for fasting, not drinking alcohol, but then criticise Jesus for enjoying a meal and a drink with his friends. Quite simply, neither of these men fulfilled the expectations that the people had in their mind of someone who would be a great leader. In the passage, Jesus surprises and yet reminds us of who he is, that we all have misplaced expectations, and that he plans to introduce the unexpected into our lives. He tells the people, and us as we read, to put aside those expectations, simply to look at him, what he's doing, and what God is doing. No one knows the Son except the Father. No one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. As Jesus prayed to his Father, he said it didn't matter if people were clever or not, capable or not, because through him they could have everything. His Father had already given him everything to share with his friends. So through him, expectations would be fulfilled. So often we try to put people into little boxes, only allow them to fulfil their potential that we've allocated in our minds. We label someone as a cook, a bottle washer, a cleaner or a clerk. And so we have expectations of their abilities. I remember some years ago singing on a concert and the minister of the time coming up to me and saying, "I didn't know you could sing. I thought you were a preacher." A few weeks later, after singing at meeting after meeting of the Christian Endeavour, I was finally invited to preach. And one lady said, "I didn't know you could preach. I thought you were a singer." Expectations. They're what we have in a box and where we put people, simply because we fail to see that person for who they are as an individual. We only allow them to be the person that we expect them to be. How often do we put God in a box, see him as only a part, and open the box only to fulfill a particular need or expectation? Jesus condemned the general attitude of generalization, because no matter what he said or did, people took the opposite view. Cynical, because he challenged the status quo. He took them out of their comfort zones and their own self-centered beliefs. Jesus spoke of having burdens. Perhaps the burden that the people were carrying was the missed expectation about the Messiah. In waiting for a warrior, they failed to see Jesus and all that he could give them. A few short weeks ago, the Prime Minister announced that churches could reopen from the 4th of July, opening up a whole new realm of expectation. I've had phone calls asking who was to be preaching at their chapel today. I've had other emails advising caution and discussions with others about practicalities, all stemming from expectations in one announcement. Different people have different expectations of the same situation. And as yet, we're still in the realm of expecting the unexpected. We don't know when our buildings will be safe for access and ultimately for worship. We don't know when we can have the coffee morning or a face-to-face chat. We do know that things can't go back to the way they were pre-pandemic. Some of our expectations won't be met in the way that we are used to, and we need to look at different ways to meet the same needs. We may need to reassess our expectations of God as we move through lockdown and learn to live alongside the fear of COVID-19. The weekly Sunday service at 10:30 is no longer the expected form of worship as we trial new ways of being together, online, on Facebook, through Zoom, through TV, and in the written word. Our expectations of where we can meet God has moved from the building where our expectations are met into a world outside where we need to reassess our expectations of who God is and what he is able to do in our lives. I'm sure you've all seen the maxim, God has left the building. He might have left the building, but he's moved into so many more places. Claire spoke last week of the need for welcoming others, challenged us to wave or smile at a stranger. God is still in that building where we expect to find him, but he's also in every home, at every bus stop. He's in the queue at the checkout at Tesco, in the face of the child starving and alone. In the most unexpected places, we can find God. In the most unexpected places is a new opportunity, a chance to show that God is still alive in our hearts. He's waiting for us to welcome him into our lives, to allow him a place and to become a part of our lives. We need to step out of our comfort zone, allow God to do his work through us, to free us from the burdens of expectation and to welcome the unexpected and the new. Jesus promises love, healing and peace when we enter into a relationship with him through his Father. He's waiting. He's out there in the streets looking for us to find him, to work with him, to be the hand that feeds the hungry, the voice that listens to the lonely, the person who challenges the status quo and helps to overcome injustice and suffering. So let God out of the box. Release yourself from the burdens of expectation and allow the unexpected to happen in your life as God enthuses and excites you to see him in all things, to welcome him at all times, in all places. Amen.